We good to go now?
Yes, this meeting has started.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and sorry for the slight delay. DC power line underground in plug feeder 467 civil construction virtual open house. District Department of Transportation, DDOT, and Pepco. Next slide, please. Our agenda today's introductions, DC plug video, feeder 467 civil construction project limits and scope of work, civil construction impacts, civil construction outreach team, civil construction frequently asked questions, DC plug contact information and questions. Next slide, please. Introductions. We have Mr. Ronald Williams, District Department of Transportation DC Plug Program Manager, and should be Miss Stephanie McHugh, Pepco Project Manager. Next slide, please. DC Plug Feeder 467 Civil Construction Team. The Civil Construction Team Manager will be Kumi Construction Management Corporation, and the civil contractor will be Capital Paving of Washington, D.C., Inc. Next slide, please. And now we'll play a short video.
Danica, could you play the video, please?
You may have to stop sharing, Rachel.
Not hearing any sound.
Yeah, the sound isn't on.
Has experienced more violent storms in The District of Columbia has experienced more violent storms in recent years, resulting in extensive power outages. For this reason, the District and Pepco are working to reduce power outages by moving many of the overhead power lines underground to improve the infrastructure and enhance resiliency. Neighborhoods affected by construction will be notified well in advance of the project start date. This will include the posting of no parking signs. Construction will begin with the coordination of streets and sidewalks impacted in your neighborhood. Signs will be posted, and flaggers will direct vehicles and pedestrians around construction crews. Before any digging begins, other existing utility lines that may be in the path of construction will be carefully identified and marked in the field. In some cases, small plants, trees, and grass will need to be removed from public spaces to allow for digging and placement of new underground equipment. But we will do our best to retain as much vegetation as possible. Any public property disturbed by this work will be restored to its original condition. Construction workers will use asphalt saws to cut the pavement. A backhoe will dig a trench for the placement of the distribution line. Periodically along the main primary line, manholes and tap holes will be required to house equipment and to provide access for inspections and repairs. The backhoe will also be utilized in these cases to excavate for these structures. In order to meet jurisdictional safety requirements, shoring will be provided in the trench to ensure stability. Pepco uses either fiberglass or plastic PVC conduit to protect underground power lines. Concrete will be poured into the trench to encase and secure the conduit. and steel plates will be placed over the trench temporarily to make the road usable to vehicle traffic. After the concrete is set, the steel plates will be removed and the trench will be repaved in sections. Transformers, switches, and other ancillary equipment will be set in place. Equipment such as transformers and switches will be installed either in the roadway or the sidewalk, depending on space availability. Underground cable will be installed. Landscaping will be restored as needed and roads paved. Overhead primary electric wires will be removed from poles, but secondary service and communication lines will remain. Finally, the new underground power lines will be energized. While electricity will remain on throughout the project, there will be a short scheduled outage needed to switch from the overhead lines to the new underground system. We appreciate your patience while the District and Pepco improve the future of electrical service for the
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to continue along. Thank you, Ann. Feeder 467, civil construction, the project limits and scope of work. Next slide, please. Here we have the project limits. What's really important on this slide, although it is somewhat difficult to see, but the next slide will get a better snapshot of what where the feeder will be, is that it is in Ward 3, which is the Chevy Chase neighborhood. The construction of the roadway impact for this feeder is approximately 2.8 miles in length. Next slide, please. Here we have the general feeder map for feeder 467. And when looking at this map, excuse me, and moving in a clockwise direction from the 12 o'clock position, you will see that the feeder's northern boundary is at Oliver Street and Nevada Avenue Northwest. The eastern boundary is at the intersection of Broad Branch and Military Road. The southern boundary is at the intersection of Nebraska and Connecticut Avenue, and the western boundary is along 39th Street. Next slide, please. Here we're showing the typical process that our construction will take. And what I'll do is we'll start at the top left and we'll move across to the right and then go down in the same order. So first we have the saw cutting and marking of the street. Next we'll show the trench excavation, and then we install the conduit. And after the conduit is laid, we will have concrete encasement. Next, we will backfill that trench and provide temporary protection. And then the final restoration you'll see in the last slide there shows the new resurfaced roadway. Next slide, please. Here we're showing some of our structures. Our structures are typically precast concrete structures. We have tap holes, transformer enclosures, and manholes. And they typically come on flatbed trucks and they're delivered to the site. The structures are then lifted into the excavated holes. And later, if you go down to the lower left, we have the conduit is installed or connected to the structure. Then we have backfilling and placing a top. And last, we show the completed restoration of a tap hole. Next slide, please. The other structures, we've got the manholes that are shown in the roadway here. This is almost completed on the left side. and restoration with a new surface roadway will occur shortly after we're at this process. In the center, we're showing a transformer enclosure, which is typically located behind the curb, either in the green space or the sidewalk. And then in the lower left, we're showing a restored transformer enclosure. Next slide, please. Some of the construction impacts that will occur, but we will try to maintain accessibility for the residents and businesses during construction. Normally, our construction hours are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on most residential streets. However, on our arterials and major collectors, we'll basically have hours from 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Typically, night and weekend work is only permitted upon request and approval by DDOT. There will be parking impacts. Typically, we give a minimum of 72 hours advance notice, and the hours may vary a little bit, and it all depends on what activities are occurring during the construction. Some additional impacts are safe accommodation for pedestrians and bicyclists will be provided during the construction. We will have flaggers that will be used to direct traffic. If there are bus stops, they may be relocated as needed. However, there will be no scheduled power outages during the civil construction. That only occurs after the electrical installation, and as the slideshow demonstrated, it was at the completion, essentially, of the project. And in the center, there is a typical no parking sign. Next slide, please. And at this time, I will turn it over to Raisha. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. All right, my name is Raisha Quarry. I'm with the DC Plug Community Outreach Team. That out of my way. Sorry about that. Okay, so during the construction phase of DC Plug, the outreach team coordinates with with residents and business owners regularly. The best way though is to join our listserv if you want to get emails and get all the schedules and all the information that we send out door to door in your inbox. We encourage everyone to go to our website at www.dcpluginfo.com. Head over to feeder 467, and then you should see what's on the right side of your screen under feeder 467. It will say join the listserv. If you click on that, and it'll send an email right over to us, and we'll add you to the list. Go to the next slide. The next slide. All right. So each feeder has their own outreach team. Feeder 467 has Ann Walters and Diane Pratt as their community outreach team. Ann will be the primary person on this project, but you can reach out to either if you have any questions. You can also email DC Plug directly at questions@dcpluginfo.com. That goes to our entire team. If you guys want to take a screenshot of this, it will be available later as well. I would. That's that number you can get Ann directly. We also have our hotline number on that on the card under that as well. All right. So here's some FAQs that we think that you're wondering and you would like to ask. So when will this project start, the civil construction? So pre-construction activities might already be happening sometime this month. So you might see test pitting and they're riding on the streets. I know it's a little tough with all the snow and the sidewalk. Civil construction is expected to actually begin next month. So actual shovels in ground will happen next month. Prior to all of that, you should be receiving notifications of all of this work. You will get door hangers for 30 days, 15 days, and 7 days. How long will construction take? Civil construction will continue for about 12 months for this project. And then the electrical construction is scheduled to start after the completion of civil construction. If it takes any longer, if it doesn't happen directly, you will get another form of notification after that. And that's all that we have. So if you guys have any questions or concerns, this is the time. Also, feel free to screenshot this page or take a picture of it. This is our website, www.dcpluginfo.com. We have our email, questions@dcpluginfo.com. We also have our hotline. It's a 24-hour hotline at 1-844-758-4146. And you can find us on X, just at Pepco's X account and DDOT's #DCplug. All right, we can go straight into questions and comments. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to write them in the chat or raise your hand.
Raisha, there's one question. Stuart said, why are you coming down 39th Street rather than major artery Connecticut Avenue? Your briefing raised a lot of concerns, re-damaged tree box plantings. How many street trees do you estimate will be killed on 39th Street?
Who wants to take that one?
I think that would be a Pepco question as to why it's on 39th Street, but essentially it's where that feeder is located.
Yes, thank you, Ron. Marcus Gill here with Pepco. I will say that we went down 39th Street just because of the primary overhead lines that are going down that street and not Connecticut. And that's kind of what we're trying to capture in this underground project. And also regarding the trees, I can't really answer to that. I don't know if someone from DDOT can or.
This is David, sir. I'm able to answer this question. I am the resident engineer of the feeder. Yeah, we try to avoid killing or removing any trees in there. In case if happen is impact with any structure, we're gonna have DDOT with us to reduce amount or if we remove any trees, so we're gonna try to replant another one. But in general, we avoid to remove any trees. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll say during design, we have worked with the arborists, and we've worked closely to try to minimize any tree impact and avoiding root zones. So we've taken that into consideration.
Stuart also have two more questions. He said, what are the EMF implications of the structures you are planning to install near residential properties? And why aren't the boxes installed in the street rather than sidewalks and tree boxes?
Hello, Marcus Gill, Pepco again. For the EMF implications, there are no human health risks with our equipment going in the ground. Essentially, it's the same thing that's on the pole, just put underground. And secondly, for the equipment not being installed in the street, it's mostly for maintenance. It's easier for our workers to come and work on there or get in that manhole to work on that equipment versus it being in the middle of the street and we have to shut the whole street down.
It's also for a safety reason, right, Marcus?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you, Marcus. William Gordon said, when road surface is repaired, will only the section with the trenching on the whole street be repaved?
Primarily, there'll be probably around an 11-foot wide lane repaved. We're not repaving the whole street. This is not a repaving project. This is primarily a utility project. So unless we cover more than half, it depends on where the trench is, but typically it'll be in the parking lane and it'll be about 11 feet wide.
Rita, another question. Rita, will we continue to use existing power lines coming to the house or will those be replaced?
All
You
of
will
those
still
will
use.
remain. Oh, I'm sorry, Marcus, go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. Yes. So your service going into your house will not change. The only thing that we're undergrounding are the primary lines to the transformer as far as secondary lines and service lines that go into your house. We will not touch them.
Communication lines will also remain.
Another question from Stuart. Two more questions. He said the pictures you shared are very concerning, and there are street trees every few feet all along the streets in the neighborhood. So I don't see how you can avoid root zones.
Well, I can't give you an exact answer tonight, but for the most part, we are avoiding trees. We've probably put in close to 60 miles of feeders so far in this program, and we haven't had significant issues. A feeder close to you was 308. That was our first feeder that we did in Ward 3, which is not too far away from where this feeder is. You might want to go over there and see whether or not the trees are still there and still doing fine, which I believe they are. Other than that, I can't really give you a more definitive answer.
And that was well over 2 years ago as well. So it's not a newer finished feeder. So I mean, and the trees are still doing fine.
Thanks. William Gordon said, will the line coming to the houses be lowered down the pole? Will the connection to the house lines be run up the pole from the ground?
I can take that.
Okay.
Essentially, no change. Nothing on private property is being affected. So what's coming into your house is going to remain at the same elevation and at the same location. And there won't be any changes because those are considered secondary lines, and we aren't touching. The only lines that are being touched are the top three lines. I don't know if you saw that in the automation that we did, but it's just the top three lines. And after they're removed, we'll take off about the top 5 feet of the pole, and the rest of the pole remains the same. There's no change. Unless, Marcus, you have anything else to add.
No, you answered that perfectly, Ron.
Another question from Stuart. Where can I find the exact location for the other feeder line you mentioned?
I would go to dcpluginfo.com and you can see all of the feeders that we have in the program. And you can, that would be my suggestion and the easiest place to find it. And everybody can find it there.
Yes, Stuart, there's an interactive map on there, so you can type in your address and to see how close 308 is to you and figure out where it is from there.
Another question for Breda. Will the transformers on the existing poles, will the transformers on the existing poles be replaced, or will the new underground system still use them?
They will be removed. We'll be installing new underground transformers.
Sorry, might have been muted. It says, when the turnover to underground goes live, how long would we be without electric service?
I could take that one. That's during the electrical phase. But during the electrical phase, we notify the residents that they will be out 1 to 4 hours. So it's a 4-hour window.
Stewart said, thanks. And William Gordon said, if you are removing the lines on the poles, how will you connect us to the new underground line? Or are our lines lower down the poles and not be removed undergrounded?
Yeah, the latter part of your question is what's going to happen. It's only the very top 3 wires that are going underground. That's what's called the feeder. Everything below that is like secondaries and house connections and communications lines.
Rita asked, are there any implications for individuals that have solar systems?
No, there won't be any. Your interconnections will be exactly the same as they are now.
That's it. I don't see any more questions. And there's 2 more. It says, thank you for the information you provided. Very helpful. William Gordon, so we'll lose our power if a tree comes down on the lines?
Well, the point of this whole process is with a feeder, it will affect maybe 1,000 or so customers. The secondaries, it'll only be 10 or 15 customers. So yes, you could lose power, but the time of loss will be much shorter because it's a much smaller impact. And again, the whole point of this is back in the 2012, we had 2 big storms. One was called the Derecho and the other was Snowmageddon. And during those 2 storms, power was out for a month or more. And, at the time, the mayor, Vincent Gray, put together a task force to evaluate how the city could make the electrical system more resilient and reliable. And the best way to do that at the minimum cost was to select the most vulnerable feeders in the system and underground them. And so that's what has been done. And so, yes, you may lose power for a short period of time, but it's not going to be for a month or any long time if there's a power a tree that comes down on a feeder. I'm sorry we don't have a slide or didn't show a slide tonight that actually depicts that, but we do have a slide that shows, not in this presentation, but in another one, that actually showed how that impact was when you had the whole feeder come down versus just a local secondary line. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Ron. I do not see any more questions. I think another one just popped up. Stuart said, so if I'm understanding properly, the new feeder line will come up out of the ground on an existing pole ever so often, for example, every block or 2, to energize the secondary line.
That is
correct. Whoop.
Oh, sorry, Ron. Yes, that is correct. Normally, where we install the underground transformers, shortly down from that manhole, you will see a secondary line coming from that transformer up an existing pole and tying into the secondary lines now. And those secondary lines are the ones that tie into the service that go to your homes.
William Gordon said, understand, but if you aren't underground in the lines sorry, where is it? Wow, sorry. Sorry. So if I'm understanding properly, the new feeder line will come out of the ground on an existing pole.
You read that one.
I read that.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
I'm
just got that
sorry.
one.
Sorry,
Mhm.
sorry. Understand. But if you aren't undergrounding the lines that you go to, that
I
go to
think he
our homes,
understands, and I think he understands. He said it twice.
he says, how do we benefit? Where do the lines on Livingston Street connect to a feeder? Okay, I got it. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Marcus?
Yeah, sorry. I can answer that. So let's say if you live on Livingston and someone else lives on 39th Street, let's say a tree on 39th Street goes down right now on top of a primary feeder. That means if you live on Livingston Street, that tree that fell down on 39th could possibly affect your power as well as, everyone else pretty much in that vicinity. If we underground the primary lines, when that pole or that tree comes down on 39th Street on the secondary lines, because the primary will be undergrounded, you will most likely not be affected on Livingston Street, if that makes sense. So that's the benefit. So versus, having 100 people out, we may have 6 or 7.
He said, thank you.
Yep.
That's it. Each time I say that, okay. Stuart, my takeaway from you all would be that I care deeply about the tree's canopy, and so I urge you to do all you can to protect and preserve our public space trees. The city contractors have a terrible reputation in this regard.
Yeah,
I
so we'll
will.
take that into account. Sorry, David, go ahead.
Okay. The trees, branches, and roots. We'll take it very seriously. We're not gonna touch all these branch and trees and roots unless it really is required. And we go taking any tree or this root is take maybe a month of a process. It's not something somebody just to go on site and do it. No, it's gonna go DDOT, PMC, myself, our QC. It's go a longer process. As I said, sometimes take 2 months to take one of 3 or 4 inches a tree. So we'll protect these trees. I promise.
And as
I hope I
far as
answered your question.
And as far as damaging the trees, the contractors that we're actually using for this project have done multiple other feeders on this project, and they've done pretty well around those trees.
He said, thank you in advance for care taken with our trees.
All right. Any more questions?
Another one just came in. When you see my property, you will understand.
Okay.
Okay, man.
All right. Give it a couple more. See if anybody has any last minute questions. Oh, the thank yous. Okay. All right, and before we wrap up, I do want to encourage everybody to go to the DC Plug website and go to Feeder 467 and sign up for our listserv so you can receive all that information that Ann's going to send out regularly so you can know exactly what's going on the project. You should be getting door hangers on your doors soon, and if you're getting a transformer enclosure near your house, you'll get that notification as well.
Yeah, just to re-emphasize, that's www.dcpluginfo.com.
Yes, thank you, Ron. All right, we can wrap it up then. Have a good night, everyone. Danica, we can end the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Right.
Thank you
Bye.
all.